The Senate will come to order. Senator Murphy,
Mr. President, I impose a call of the Senate.
the Senate is now under call. Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that further proceedings under the roll call be dispensed with and that the Sergeant of Arms be instructed to bring in the absent members.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Members, if you be so kind as to stand. As in our tradition, we'll start with prayer, and today's chaplain is Reverend Jorgensen from St. Timothy Lutheran Church in St. Paul. And members, following the prayer, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I invite you all to take a breath and center yourselves now. Holy breath of grace, we gather in this place, opening our hearts and minds to what is possible today. Remind us to remember the fleeting nature of breath, to receive the gifts of this moment and to give what we are able as we all share this one breath of life. You call us inward deeply to hear and know how profoundly we are cherished. Help us to embrace that promise that we are beloved as we are. You call us outward widely to stretch our arms and our spirits so that grace and life may extend to others. Help shape our words and actions to be signs of welcoming hope. You call us onward boldly to strive for what we can accomplish together for this state's future, for all that lives and breathes in Minnesota. Give us vision beyond what our eyes can see. Help us to share courage with those who falter, resources with those who hunger, love with those who are lonely. You call us to one another, with all who serve and share of themselves, who strive and seek the betterment of our society. Help us to focus on that betterment today. Holy breath of grace, at the end of the day, there are others who need us. Family, friends, neighbors. Remind us to breathe that breath which connects us all, mortals who are nevertheless deeply beloved. Amen.
Thank you, members. The secretary will take the roll.
Abler, Anderson, Barr, Bolden, Carlson, Champion, Coleman, Swadzinski, Dames, Dibble, Dornick, Draheim, Drazkowski, Duckworth, Diedzik, Eichhorn, Farnsworth, Fateh, Frentz, Green, Grunhagen, Gustafson, Hochschild, Herr, Hoffman, Housley, Howe, Jasinski, Johnson, Klein, Koran, Kroon, Kunish, Kupek, Lang, Latz, Liskey, Limmer, Lucero, Mann, Marty, Matthews, McQuaid, McEwen, Miller, Mitchell, Mohammed, Morrison, Murphy, Nelson, Lumover, Baton, Pappas, Pa, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rasmussen, Rest, Seeberger, Utke, Weber, Huizenberg, Westland, Westrom, Wickland, Zhang.
Members, a quorum is present. Members, if you care to follow along with me, I am reading from today's Senate agenda, which is dated Thursday, February 22nd. Members, we will begin at the second order of business, which is executive and official communications. The following communications were received. Please make note of them as no action is required. Members, we will now proceed to the fifth order of business, which is report of committees. Senator Murphy for a motion to adopt committee reports.
Mr. President, I move the committee reports printed in the agenda be adopted.
On that motion of the committee reports, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Members, we will now proceed to the eighth order of business. Eighth order of business is introduction and first reading of Senate bills. The bills listed on today's introduction calendar are given their first reading and referred as indicated with the following changes. Members, if you go to page number 3, you'll see Senate file number 4042. That bill has been referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services. Members, if you also go to page number 8, you will see Senate File number 4094. That bill has been referred to the Committee on Human Services. If you also would go to page number 9, you'll see Senate File number 4104. That bill has been referred to the Committee on Human Services. And last but certainly not least, if you go to page 14, you will see that Senate File number 4146 has been referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services. And as I stated, members, the bills listed on today's introduction calendar are given their first reading and referred as indicated. Members, we will now proceed to the 9th order of business, which is motions and resolutions. We will adopt the author's motions as one motion. All in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. We are now going to Senate Resolution number 73, will be referred to the Committee on Rules and Administration, and no action is required. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Murphy to designate special orders.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to Rule 26, I designate the following bill be made a special order for immediate consideration. Senators, the list is on your desk.
Members, and you'll see that we're going to start with House File 2757. Senator Klein.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members, for giving your early attention and time to the Tax Technical Corrections Bill this year. Members, I want to thank also my co-authors on the Senate file for this bill, Senators Weber and Nelson. These technical errors in the Omnibus Tax Bill from 2023 were identified early after session, and it's important that we act on them immediately and early in this session prior to the issuance of the February forecast. That will provide predictability and stability to businesses and workers who are filing their taxes at this time, and it will ensure that the forecast is not impacted. Members, I'll quickly go through the 3 technical corrections that were identified. The first is in the standard deduction adjustment, which was a revenue raiser in last year's bill. The 2023 tax bill inadvertently referenced 2019 standard deduction amounts rather than the inflation adjustment amounts that should exist for tax year 2024. The tax chairs and the commissioner released a statement when the mistake was noted early, clarifying the intent of the 2023 bill and promising an early correction in 2024. As a result, the Department of Revenue has not yet adjusted withholding tables to reflect current law, and the MMB did not calculate this mistake in its November forecast. However, Commissioner Marquardt has warned or noticed that if this is not addressed by the February 22, the department will have to update withholding tables to reflect the current language in the forecast. If not corrected, this would result in $350 million of unintended excessive collections by the state this year. The second correction is for local sales tax that was passed for Beltrami County. The 2023 bill language approved a local sales tax for Beltrami County to build a jail. The citizens of Beltrami County voted on that in November of 2023. However, under current law, that election is not considered a general election as required, but a special election. We are simply validating that November 2023 choice by the citizens of that county as a legitimate approval of their referendum powers for a local sales tax. And lastly is the Indigenous statewide housing aid for tribal governments. The 2023 tax bill allowed 7 specific tribal nations to receive annual statewide local housing aid. To align that definition with tribal nation aid, we are going to allow all 11 sovereign nations to apply for tribal housing aid. Of note, the total dollar amount of the aid would not change even if all 11 nations applied for the aid. It would simply split the pie differently. Members, those are the technical corrections. I believe they are non-controversial, and I'm glad to field any questions.
Thank you, Senator Klein. Any discussion on House File 2757?
Mr. President.
Senator Housley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the A9 amendment.
Senator Housley offers the A9 amendment. I got it. Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Housley moves to amend House File Number 2757 as follows. Page 6 after line 32, insert. This is the A9 amendment.
Senator Housley to the A9 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, we're back at work, back on the floor, and we've got bills, and it's interesting that the first bill on the floor is a repair bill. I have the feeling that there's going to be many more repair bills needed going forward this session, and this one is the tax corrections bill. If you remember, last year we had a $17.6 billion surplus, and the governor was going to issue tax rebate checks of $2,000 to every Minnesotan that paid in. And instead, those checks came and were $260 to those that were making less than $75,000. So Minnesotans were disappointed with the $260 compared to the $2,000, but they were even more disappointed when they found out in December that they also were going to be taxed on that $260. So, Mr. President, what this amendment does is it is going to give a tax credit to those who receive the $260 per person tax rebate. The Department of Revenue estimates that the effective tax rate for the rebate income is 10%, meaning that roughly $120 million in additional federal tax paid will be coming from these Minnesotans. So it's very, very simple. This will be allowed for the years 23 and 24 that the rebates were issued in. And I am hoping that this is a friendly amendment that everybody can get on board, so our state rebate checks will get a credit for what they have been taxed. Thank you.
Senator Klein to the A9 amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Housley, for your concern for the tax dollars of working Minnesotans, which I share. This is a technical corrections bill. By tradition, it is a $0 bill. It creates no new changes in the revenues forecast for 2024. It is the tradition of this body not to spend new tax dollars before the February forecast. A rough estimate of the cost to state coffers of the Housley amendment would be approximately $120 million in this coming year. Members, I urge a no vote and I request a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Any other discussions to the A9 amendment? Senator
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Duckworth, as a reminder. I know it's only the
Duckworth.
second
I cannot remember your name. Senator
No worries.
Duckworth.
No worries, Mr. President. Would Senator Klein yield to her question, please?
Senator Klein, will you yield? He will yield. Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it. And thank you, Senator Klein, for bringing the bill forward. Thank you to Senator Housley for offering the amendment. You mentioned the price tag of $120 million to the state. Senator Klein, I'm wondering, had the legislature done what we promised and passed the tax bill in time for us to meet a deadline, that $120 million, would it be going to the federal government that's trillions of dollars in debt, or would the $120 million actually have stayed in the pockets of Minnesotans?
To the question, Senator Klein.
Mr. President, Senator Duckworth, thank you. I believe you're asking about the governor's rebate checks bill, the bill that is not in front of me currently and is not in front of this body, and I don't have an answer for you.
Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll answer my own question. This is not robbing the state of $120 million. This is ensuring that the $120 million ends up in the pockets it was intended to in the first place. Senator Housley's amendment is very on point regarding this bill for calling it a fix-it bill. A promise was broken, and we owe it to Minnesotans to fix it. This amendment does just that. I do encourage members to vote green on it. Thank you.
Senator Howell.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I will say that my comments echo Senator Duckworth. He went down the right path. What this does, what Senator Housley's amendment does, is actually restore the amount of the amendment or the rebate check that the governor intended to give these individuals. Because without this, now they've got to pay federal income tax. So what we're doing is the governor decided not to give the taxpayers of Minnesota a full $260. He's going to give them part of the $260 because they've got to pay that in taxes. What this does is this puts that money right back into the taxpayers' pockets where it belongs and where it will do the most good. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Jaskowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we have before us an amendment that Senator Housley is bringing to correct what effectively, Mr. President, resulted in a deception to the people of Minnesota. If you will remember, as we entered the 2022 election, there was contemplation about the huge surplus that was being anticipated here. We saw it last year, Mr. President. This body spent $19 billion of over-collected tax money from the people of Minnesota, and it spent the whole thing. Well, Mr. President, if we remember back, the governor was talking as he worked to get elected of a $2,000 tax rebate to the people of Minnesota. As a matter of fact, Mr. President, if we had done the right thing and headed in the right direction, $19 billion would have been over $4,000 per family in the state of Minnesota that this body should have sent back to them. But, Mr. President, we did not. Instead of the $4,000 per family, the rhetoric was deceiving them around $2,000 per family. As a matter of fact, instead of the $2,000 per family, the final result was a deceptive $260 per family. A measly, paltry $260 per family that was sent to them in a rebate. And this deception, Mr. President, was so bad that we even in the language gave them a tax on top of that for accepting the paltry $260 per family rebate of their taxes that were overcollected at a rate of over $4,000 per family. That's the level of deception that the product of this legislature produced last time and dealt out to the fine, hardworking people of Minnesota. As a matter of fact, Mr. President, members, we asked in Tax Committee, and the Revenue Commissioner was there, and he did a good job, I think, of doing what's the word I'm looking for, members? Of doing an overview of how we got here. Why in the world did this body deceive the people of Minnesota and not only give them a paltry $260 when it should have been over $4,000, but we also gave them a tax on top of that? Why in the world did this, and how in the world did this body do that? And the commissioner, Mr. President, made it very clear that it was not the legislature that wrote the language for the rebate. It was the Department of Revenue that wrote the language. And Mr. President, members, I think it's very instructive as we endeavor to do our work here as a legislature and represent the people of Minnesota that we write the legislation, Mr. President, not the executive branch. We had the executive branch write that language, and as we know, and as I know and have seen in my history here, Mr. President, I think everybody intuitively knows this. When you have the executive branch write an agency bill or an agency provision, what ends up happening is the member ends up getting lazy. The body ends up getting lazy because, Mr. President, if the executive branch wrote the legislation and wrote the language, they had to have it right? I mean, most people would think if the Department of Revenue wrote it and it's about taxes, it's got to be written correctly. But guess what? It wasn't written correctly. It was written to put this body, this state, the people paying the taxes in this state in the position of having to pay the federal government taxes because, why? This legislature was lazy. L-A-Z-Y, lazy. We didn't do our job properly. We allowed the executive branch to determine the policy and determine the specifics of the policy And that is why, finally, the people of Minnesota were deceived into thinking they were going to get a paltry $260 per family rebate, and they instead got a tax increase. Let's fix this, Mr. President. Let's fix this, members. Let's endeavor to not be lazy as a legislature anymore, and let's endeavor to not deceive the people of Minnesota and remove the last piece of deception that happened there and fix this provision so the hardworking people of Minnesota don't have this in front of them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Members, remember we are on the A9 amendment. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Senator Klein stated just a minute ago that this is a technical bill and should have a zero fiscal impact. Well, this whole bill, this whole corrections bill, are fixing fiscal impacts that were created last year. The standard deduction change alone is about a $350 million fiscal impact to the state. So to say that this is a zero impact bill is mistaken. Now, true, I've never seen this happen before, but for some reason, some of these corrections were baked into the forecast, and they shouldn't have been until we passed legislation. But members, the governor and members of this body throughout the fall stated taxing the rebate was a mistake. Mr. President, this is a corrections bill. This is a bill to fix last year's tax bill, and we ought to stand up and fix this for the good people of Minnesota for the mistake that was made in this chamber. Thank you.
Members, as usual, which is our custom, I let the author of the amendment be the last person, but she's not at her desk, so I'm going to see if Senator Klein has any last thing to say. He says he has nothing else to say. The secretary will take the roll. Members, please vote. Members, for those voting under Rule 40.7, Senator Bowden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report that Senator Dietzick votes no.
Senator Dietzick votes no.
And I report that Senator Hauschild votes no.
Senator Hauschild votes no. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye. All those voting who desires Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Lang votes aye.
Lang votes aye. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 31 ayes and 34 noes, the amendment is not adopted. Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to present Amendment A5.
Senator Weber offers the A5 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment at the appropriate time.
Senator Weber moves to amend House File Number 2757 as follows. Page 5 after line 18, insert. This is the A5 amendment.
Senator Weber to the A5 amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Today, and I will have further comments on the overall bill later, and there's nothing in the overall bill that is a problem for me. But one of the things that I wish to talk about right now is what is not in this bill that was supposed to be. In fact, that was one of the reasons that I was willing to sign on as a co-author of this bill. And that deals with the treatment of the deductibility of net operating losses. Now, net operating loss deduction is something that is used by corporations, and right away everyone thinks, oh, well, that's just something for business and corporations. We don't need to be concerned about that. But the reality of it is that a net operating loss is oftentimes our deduction of the net operating loss is very important for our startup and our small businesses. As they get started in business, they incur many additional costs that create a loss situation for them, particularly in their first couple of years. And last year, the legislature, along with all the other tax increases, decided to reduce the availability of that operating loss deduction from 80% to 70%. And it was supposed to take effect for tax years beginning after December 31st, 2023. But instead, when it was written and when it came out, another mistake was made. And it was effective for tax years beginning after December 31st, 2022. I would draw your attention to a letter that a copy of which you have been given, that was sent from the tax committee chairs, both the tax committee chair of the Senate and the tax committee chair of the House. It was sent to the commissioner and to the commissioner not only of Department of Revenue, but of Minnesota Management and Budget. And in that letter, they indicated that that was a mistake, that mistake would be corrected at the earliest opportunity possible within the legislative session. And yet, today, that correction is not included in the bill in front of us. So therefore, I have produced this amendment in order to include that correction to it. And the reality of it is, Mr. President, we have heard the statement made, well, the reason that it's not there is because the governor didn't want it. And to that I simply reply, big, hairy deal. We are the legislature. We are the ones that create legislation. We are the ones that pass bills. And when it gets to the governor's desk, that's the time for him to weigh in. The reality of it is that this is not right, that this correction was not made. You know, at the end of the day, I think one of the reasons that the governor gave was that he did not want to see any new spending coming through the legislature. Well, he also said that he did not wish to see any new taxes coming through the legislature. And guess what? When you initiate a tax a year earlier than what its intent was, you have just created a new tax. And quite frankly, he's doing it on his own with the aid and accomplishment of the legislature. And shame on us for allowing that to happen. You know, friends, Mr. President and members, we are tied to our citizens through the Constitution. We are not tied to the governor. He has his job, he has ours. I think that there is one way to correct this situation. Let's pass this amendment, let's put it on the bill, let's send it to the governor, and if he wants to veto this bill because of a $15 million correction that the small businesses of this state deserve, then shame on him as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Klein to the A5 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Weber, for the A5 amendment. I confine my opening remarks on the bill to the elements of the bill that are present within the bill, not others that are not included. The addition of the A5 by Senator Weber, as he knows, would have a immediate impact of $14.8 million upon our February forecast. Again, it's the tradition of this body not to impact revenues prior to that forecast. Having said all that, Senator Weber, the minority lead on taxes, knows that it is the spirit of this legislature that we agree that this was a technical correction and that it should have been included in the bill. Senator Rest, the chair of taxes, has committed to introducing a bill and hearing a bill that addresses this correction after the February forecast, and I will support her in that effort. Members, I request a roll call and I ask for your no vote.
Roll call requested and a roll call granted. Any final statements before I let the author of the amendment be the last voice? Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. And I rise in support of Senator Weber's amendment. There's just one other additional perspective on this. You know, you're basically hurting, if I understand this correctly, businesses that actually have a loss. And the other thing to keep in mind that hasn't been mentioned, since the Biden administration has been in charge, our inflation rate in this country is about 20%, okay? And remember, inflation is taxation without legislation. That's Milton Friedman, a Nobel Prize winning economist. So we're already raising taxes on the businesses, on our individuals by 20% by decreasing the purchasing power of the money that they earn. So you're already raising taxes, and then you want to raise taxes on top of the inflation rate yet. That is economic insanity, ladies and gentlemen. Let's help our businesses. This was to be included, and I would strongly urge, for the sake of the hardworking people of the state of Minnesota and our small businesses, that we vote green and include this into the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We will now go to Senator Howell. All right, Senator Johnson. Okay. Wonderful ones. Some people say they want to, then they don't want to. I just want to make sure that I'm keeping you all in order because I try to make sure that we have a running list. So, Senator Johnson, do you want to go before or after Senator Jaskowski?
Do you want to go ahead? Okay.
I know you're pointing at each other. You. Okay. All right. Who's going to go?
Here for a little bit. All right. Thank you.
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate this amendment coming forward, too. And in my job outside of the legislature, I do a lot of legal work for small business types. And so, you know, it's not, right now it seems more LLCs are being the vehicle, but there's a lot of old family businesses. When you think of the mom and pop shops, the small grocery stores, the small restaurants, the small construction companies out there, they've been around for ages. Maybe they're second generation, the sons and daughters have taken over at that point. A lot of them are still organized as a C Corp or an S Corp, which this really impacts those businesses. And now you add in the layer of they've had a tough year of finding employees to help them operate their business. Maybe they've had a catastrophe. Maybe their kitchen started on fire. Maybe something happened with one of their employees, and now they're operating at a loss. What this will do, by not including this amendment, this will penalize those businesses who have always been able to rely on some of those net operating losses to help them in that time of need, to stabilize their cash flows. So what we're doing is we're really penalizing those businesses that have been around Minnesota for many generations, probably many of them up and down your block or your small town or your communities. This has a huge impact. This does not get eaten up by the huge corporations. This is not that. This is a lot of your small businesses in your town. So think about that when you're taking that vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Jaskowski to the A5 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, well, we heard from Senator Klein that the idea, Mr. President, is to, at least for Senate Democrats, to not vote for this amendment and put it on this tax correction bill. This is a tax correction, but instead to offer it as its own bill later. So the reality is, members, this is the only tax correction bill going through on its way to the governor. This is the only vehicle that this legislature is going to see for tax corrections. This is the place to have this item in. And as a matter of fact, it would be even more deceptive as a legislature for us to believe that if we are going to bring it and just offer another bill with this item all by itself, and we know, Mr. President, that bill is not going to make it to the governor. It's not going to the governor. As a matter of fact, we had the tax chair in the House and the Senate agree. They wrote a letter to the agency, the governor's agency, and told them about this, the need for this correction. And now we're in a situation which I don't completely understand, Mr. President. As Senator Weber very clearly articulated, we have in this government a legislative branch and we have an executive branch. They have two different functions. One does not cede its authority to the other. But, Mr. President, that's what we seem to be having happen here. I can assure you that Republicans on this vote, Mr. President, are not going to cede their authority to the governor because he seems to want to increase taxes on Minnesota businesses that are struggling. Because that's what this will do if we don't correct this. Republicans don't want to do that. We want to vote to include this in the bill, send it to the governor and say, Governor, fix all of the tax problems that our tax committees identified last year. And if we include this in there, it will fix all of them. But this one is being set aside because the governor of this state doesn't want it in the bill. He wants to raise taxes on Minnesota businesses. That's why we're not sending it to him. That's why Democrats are going to vote against this bill. Every single Democrat will vote against this bill. I can assure you, Mr. President, that's what's going to happen. We have Democrats that are walking in lockstep with the governor. The governor is taking over the legislative process here in the state of Minnesota, and legislative Democrats are following him, even though they disagree with him. They don't have the courage to be the legislature that they want to be. Mr. President, this is legislative cowardice for us to not include this provision in the bill. Instead, we're going to have this fake fluffy stuff over here say, oh, we're going to offer another bill over here that we know is not going to go anywhere. We need to be honest with the people of Minnesota right here, right now. Senate Democrats, join Republicans. Vote for this amendment, get some cojones and be the legislature, because it is not the governor's legislature.
Point of order.
It is the people of Minnesota's legislature. Thank you, Mr. President.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Senator Latz.
Mr. President, Senator Drazkowski has crossed a line. I ask that the President admonish him not to do so by calling disparative names toward other members of the Senate. He came close several times in his remarks, and I sat in my seat. But his final sentence was completely unacceptable and brings shame upon this body.
Members, I am asking you to think about what you're saying. There's certain language that I hope that you will not use on the floor or certain implications, but I ask that you think about that. I'm not going to rule on it, but I really want us as the body to continue to live up to our standards. So thank you so very much. I will now go to Senator Jasinski, followed by the author of the amendment before we vote. Senator Jasinski.
I have a comment.
Senator Nelson had put her hand up, so I will say Senator Jasinski, Senator Nelson, and then Senator Weber, and then we will vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I also stand in support of the A5 as a previous owner of an S-Corp. This hurts small business. And the letter that's on your desk states in the last paragraph, the first sentence, we will pursue legislation at the earliest possible opportunity to correct the effective date of this provision. It's right in front of you, black and white. It was signed. This is our earliest possible moment. Remember, not only it's legislative season, it's tax season. Right now, the people of Minnesota are working on their taxes. They're going to their accountants. They're getting their taxes prepared. If we don't act, they're going to have to go in, get a revised version of their taxes, spend more money, more of their money, to correct again something we could have corrected today. Folks, let's vote green on this amendment.
Senator Nelson, followed by Senator Weber. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I too stand in support of the A5 amendment, which, members, corrects the omission of the mistake that was made, one of the mistakes that was made in the tax bill last year. There appears to be no opposition to correcting this mistake, except perhaps from not in this body. In this body, everyone has, and in the House, both have said we need to correct this mistake regarding net operating losses. Basically, I want to make sure the public understands this. It's moving a tax hike up by 1 year. So it's moving a tax hike up to 1 year earlier in tax filings. Now, we've heard a couple concerns today on this discussion, and I think history is always a good lesson to look at and remember what we've done in the past. We should be consistent. Now, we've heard on this floor that, oh, we cannot pass this correction today because, well, it hasn't been allocated in the forecast. That's kind of what we're hearing, is we can't pass it yet because it will have an impact on the forecast. I want to make sure the public knows that of the 4 tax mistakes that everyone agreed were mistakes that were not what the legislature thought it was passing, 3 of them were included in the forecast. All right, 1 of them was not. Now we're going to talk about this one. For some reason, this one of the smallest, least expensive mistakes to fix was not included in the forecast. And what I'm hearing today on the Senate floor is, well, it would be improper for us to fix it now because it was not in the forecast. That's what I'm hearing. But I want members to recall that in 2023, not that long ago, many of you, most of you, I think all of you were right here in this chamber when we passed the federal conformity for 2023. We passed that bill in this chamber that had an impact on the forecast, and we did it before the February forecast came out. I am asking members to be consistent in how they apply their concern about a correction that is not reflected in the forecast that came out most recently. I think, members, we need to be consistent. We also need to know that there were 4 mistakes identified, and for some reason, this is the only one that was not included in the most recent forecast. I encourage a green vote.
The author of the A5 amendment, and then we will vote. Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. It has been stated here that we shouldn't pass this because we didn't account for this $14.8 million as far as the budget is concerned. Well, the reality of it is, Mr. President, that the last forecast did show money on the bottom line, and quite frankly, this money would come out of the general fund for that purpose. The other reality is something that Senator Nelson referred to, Mr. President, and that is that in committee, the Office of Management and Budget indicated that no, they had not taken into consideration the correction of the standard deductions for the forecast because they knew it was going to be corrected. Well, good grief, Mr. President. Our tax chair sent the letter to the departments in June 27th of 2023. They were told that it was going to be corrected. Oh, but we're going to include that one so that it has to be counted as an expense. You know, the reality of it is, Mr. President, that I don't think our governor has ever seen a tax increase that he didn't like. And this is just another time that he has an opportunity to impose one. And as we step forward from this body, I would like to repeat a comment that I made earlier. Are we going to be willing to stand up and do the job that we are supposed to do? And so I would encourage all of you to vote yes and to tell the governor, we will develop the legislation of this state, and then you can decide. Thank you, Mr. President.
The Secretary will take the roll on the A5 amendment. Members, please vote. Senator Bowden, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report that Senator Dietzig votes no.
Senator Dietzig votes no.
And Senator Hauschild votes no.
And Senator Hauschild votes no. Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Lang votes aye.
And Senator Lang votes aye. All members having voted. Oh. All members having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 32 ayes and 34 nays, the amendment is not adopted. Senator Nelson.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Well, I have to say that is a disappointing vote to see that we were not able to correct that on this floor, even though we did similar things in 2023. And because of that, I have the A10 amendment, Mr. President.
Senator Nelson offers the A10 amendment. The Secretary will report the A10 amendment.
Senator Nelson moves to amend House File Number 2757 as follows. Page 6, after line 32, insert. This is the A10 amendment.
Senator Nelson, to your A10 amendment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have been over this issue regarding this correction that we could have made 5 minutes ago that we did not. And that is why I have the A10 amendment. The A10 amendment would abate, not allow penalties and interest for those taxpayers who followed the law that we passed in 2023, who did as the legislature said they did regarding their taxes, particularly on the NOLs. It could have been fixed now, it was not. And so my amendment, the A10, simply forbids the Commissioner of Revenue from enacting penalties upon Minnesotans who filed their taxes based upon the tax law that was passed and based upon the letters that were sent from the chairs. So, members, I certainly hope that you can support the A5 amendment, which simply forbids penalties on the tax law correction change that apparently we were not able to correct today on the floor.
Members, just a correction. I know that Senator Nelson meant to say the A10 amendment, so I got you, Senator Nelson. Any discussion on the A10 amendment? Senator Klein.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Nelson. We've just taken a little moment here to discuss with the tax chair the implications of the A9, or excuse me, the A10. Appreciate you bringing it forward. I think on the spreadsheets there would not be a cost to this amendment, although I'm concerned there may be administrative costs for processing this. That, however, is not my reason for encouraging a no vote on this bill. It's important that we get the technical corrections bill to the governor expeditiously in time for the forecast. We need to match our language with the other body and move it today. This is an interesting and probably meritorious amendment, which we could include in the rest bill that is forthcoming to address the NOL issue. Members, I do encourage a no vote, and I do request a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Any other discussion? Senator Dames.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I think this is a very good amendment. And to postpone it and say we'll add it on to somebody else's bill down the road, let's do this now and let's get this taken care of. Let's show the small businesses that we're going to take advantage of them every opportunity we get, but that we're not going to double down on the advantages we're going to take of them. Sit here and listen today to this discussion. And this discussion shouldn't even be happening. This is just common sense that these were errors. There were mistakes made. We all make errors. We all make mistakes. But let's admit it and get this taken care of. We've had 2 other amendments that did not get voted to pass, and that is really unfortunate. We want to talk about shame. My Lord, if this isn't shameful what we're doing to our businesses, our small businesses, our S corporations, our C corporations, this is just unbelievable. And when we voted on this tax bill last year, we didn't vote on the tax bill we ended up with. And this is almost to the point where this tax bill ought to really be brought back in and totally redone, because every time we make a turn, there's something that shows up that was unexpected, wasn't recognized, and now we have the opportunity to correct that. Let's do the right thing. Let's correct it, and let's stop the future shame we're going to have by the way we're doing this today. Thank you, members.
Any additional discussions on the A10? I see your hand, Senator Nelson. I'll call you last as the author of the amendment. Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. President. I totally understand and I totally believe that there will be an effort made in a future bill to produce this correction. But the reality of it is, if it gets to be part of a larger tax bill, omnibus bill, I would like to remind the members of something. We are in a midstream in our budget cycle. In 2016, in 2018, in 2020, in 2022, those were years that we were also in mid-cycle of our budget stream. And those years, there was no omnibus tax bill. So while I believe that there is a desire to produce this, there is no guarantee that we will have an opportunity to vote on this correction again. You know what? Somehow the legislature seems to have forgotten how to have a conference committee. Wouldn't take long with this difference. All we have to do is send it back to the House, have them confer, and you know what? It's a done deal. Or they can have a quick conference committee and work it out. Why are we so scared of the process in this legislature? Mr. President, I encourage a green vote on this amendment.
The last voice that you'll hear now is Senator Nelson, and then we will vote on the A10 amendment. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I appeal to your judgment, fairness, and how you would like to be treated. Taxpayers acting in good faith should not be penalized because of a retroactive tax increase. That's what we're talking about here, folks. We're talking about 2023 taxes. And here we sit in February 2024, and if this body does not act on this amendment, taxpayers could be liable for penalties for following the tax law that they said the legislature passed. That's what the legislature said they passed. It was on the DOR website. Even the most astute taxpayers would have been misled by what the Department of Revenue website was saying. I appeal to you to vote in favor of prohibiting penalties for taxpayers who were following the advice, what they thought the legislature passed, the legislature said it passed, and what the DOR said was the way. Note 2 things. There's no reason to not vote for this amendment. First of all, this would not impact current law, where penalties for willful or intentional taxpayer actions would still apply. This does not affect willful or intentional penalties. And this amendment would have no general fund impact. Members, there should be no reason for no votes on this amendment. I encourage a yes vote. Thank you.
The Secretary will take the roll on the A10 amendment. Members, please vote. Senator Bowden, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report that Senator Dietzig votes no.
Senator Dietzig votes no.
And Senator Housechild votes no.
And Senator Housechild votes no. Senator Jorgensen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Lang votes aye.
And Senator Lang votes aye. Members, please vote. All members having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 32 ayes and 34 noes, the A10 amendment is not adopted. Seeing no additional amendments, the Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File Number 2757, a bill for an act relating to taxation, income, aids, and local sales and use.
Third reading. Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the conversation we've had thus far. And although there may be some good things in this bill, I want to talk about some things that are missing, or at least elaborate on them a little bit more. As we were having the conversation, we kept talking about the spirit of the legislature. Well, I want to remind folks, the spirit of the legislature is to serve the people and to put them and their families first, not to simply be a rubber stamp, and to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. We call this a corrections bill, but it's missing a few corrections. What corrections are not in the bill? We're not correcting that Minnesotans are going to have to pay federal taxes on the stipends they received. We're not correcting the error that's going to cost small businesses millions of dollars, even though they were promised we were going to fix that error. And we're not protecting them from the penalties they could incur because the legislature decided not to fix it after promising we would. We have to ask ourselves, why are we even in this position? Why are we even in the position that we have to make some of these corrections? Well, it's because despite spending $19 billion in surplus, increasing government spending by 40%, and putting us in a projected deficit of over $2 billion, Democrats couldn't pass a tax bill last year to meet the timelines that would have prevented this. And why? Because they were too busy arguing amongst themselves on how much they wanted to increase taxes on Minnesota families. That's why we missed the deadline. That's why Minnesotans are having to pay taxes on rebate checks, even though we told them, let's get the bill done, let's meet these timelines, and let's ensure those dollars stay in the pockets of Minnesotans. And now here we stand with the chance to correct it, and we're failing to do so. Mr. President, the legislature and those in control of it right now are breaking promise after promise and replacing them with more promises to be fulfilled in the future. At some point, our word is going to mean nothing if it doesn't already. We owe it to the people to make these fixes and corrections as quickly as we possibly can.
Any other discussion before we call on the bill author? Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stated earlier that I was not opposed to anything that is included in this bill, and that is correct. I voted against the bill in committee to make a statement about the fact of what was not included in there, the corrections that needed to be made to be fair to the people and businesses of the state of Minnesota. And so I thought to myself, what will I do on the floor? And I have decided that I am going to vote for this bill. I am not going to vote against items that I generally support because something is glaringly missing. Unfortunately, Mr. President, those on the other side of the aisle today had an opportunity to vote for what was missing, and they did not take advantage of that opportunity. And that is most unfortunate, and it is most unfair to the people and businesses of this state. I stated earlier, and I repeat once more, it is our job to develop the legislation of this state, and we should do so in the best interest of those whom we represent, not according to the whims of the governor. Thank you.
The author of the bill, Senator Klein, before we vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Weber. Members, I'm so grateful for the discussion and the debate around the tax corrections bill today. It really exemplified the best traditions of this body. The amendments that were offered were serious, high-minded, and intended to improve the bill in ways that could be reasonably argued were technical corrections that were not included. They were not cynical or politically motivated. So I'm grateful for the discussion from both parties. Once again, members, I would turn your attention away from items that may not be included in the bill to the three items that are clearly technical corrections and necessary work of this legislature to complete today. Again, these changes were agreed upon early. They will maintain a $0 impact on Minnesota taxpayers who are now filing their taxes, and they'll provide predictability and stability to businesses and workers who are currently filing. Once again, I'm grateful to the co-authors on the Senate file version of this bill, Senator Nelson, Senator Weber, and members, I encourage a green vote.
The Secretary will take the roll on final passage of House File 2757. Members, please vote. For those voting under Rule 40.7, Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Senator Lang votes aye.
And thank you, Mr. President. Senator Housley votes aye.
And Senator Housley votes aye. Senator Bowden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report that Senator Dietzig votes aye.
Senator Dietzig votes aye.
And Senator Hauschild votes aye.
And Senator Hauschild votes aye. All senators having, oh, one more. Sorry about that. All senators voting who have a desire to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, we will now go to the 13th order of business. Without objection, the following senators will be excused from today's session: Lucero from 11 a.m. to 12:05 p.m. and Barr from 11 to 11:35 a.m. Any other announcements? Senator Marty.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Just wanted to call our attention to the fact that a longtime former Senate employee, Phil Mednick, passed away recently after a very brief, unexpected illness. I think many of you know him. He was here for over 35 years. He was the Director of Engineering and Operations for Senate Media Services, so he was a behind-the-scenes kind of guy, but he was the one who designed and built the infrastructure and the network that we have for our entire broadcast system that I think has served us as senators well and served the public well in helping our actions be more transparent and helping the public be engaged. Phil is somebody who, those of you who ever had a chance to work with him know he was always kind and thoughtful, caring employee. And I ask you to keep his wife and family in your thoughts and prayers. There's going to be a memorial service tomorrow, Friday at 1 p.m. at Hodroff Epstein Funeral Chapel in Minneapolis. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Marty, and our condolences goes out to his family. Members, any other announcements before I make one announcement? Seeing none, this is just a gentle reminder that we're doing our picture on March 4th at 9 o'clock. We ask that you be here no later than 8:45. Seeing no additional announcements, we will now turn to Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Just for next week, I want to let everybody know that we plan to meet next Monday and next Thursday. Coming in at 11 o'clock, there'll be an email to follow with more information. And with that, Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until February 26th at 11 a.m.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Senate is now adjourned until Monday, February 26th at 11 a.m.